And here they are at the most critical time in history saying, oh, no, we want to play nice with the fascists. Okay. So then, yeah, I think it's time for every one of us who knows better. I think we need to speak up.
Progressive host Ben Dixon is the latest to call out Cenk Uygur and Ana Kasparian for apparently leaving the left. Ben Dixon was a guest on the Vanguard. We're going to take a look at clips from the Vanguard. I'm going to share my thoughts on this as well. This is another explosive one. Let's check this out together.
Oh, absolutely. We're excited to have you. And I guess that's a great place to dive right in. Gavin kind of set the table a little bit. You have a professional relationship, or at least you had a professional relationship with the Young Turks network. I think at one point, pretty much all of us considered them an ally in the movement, yes, despite whatever, fringe disagreements we may have had in the past with their strategy or their, financing and all of that. I feel like it's really within the last 18 months, 2 years that we've seen, the walls start breaking. It starts crumbling down, and the facade and the veneer of progressivism, as it has waned in popularity, has become obviously not the cash cow it was in 2016 and again in 2020. So they're looking for, a new trough to eat out of, as it is.
Yeah. It's really quite sad. And I've been very reserved in going after them myself. Not really going to worry about that in the future, but I tend to hold a little bit of reservation for people I've worked with professionally. I did work with TYT professionally, but not for a long time. And the reason I stopped working with them is a story to be told in and of itself. They weren't doing right about some things, and so I just decided, hey, I can do bad by myself. I didn't want to be in a contract where they would be making money off of me on all the platforms, but only paying me for one platform. And as I brought that up to their attention, they were like, well, that's just kind of how we do it. And that's not how I do it. So my time with them didn't really last a long time. It was cool.
Now, that is an interesting revelation from Benjamin Dixon. So we've had many people now calling them out over their shifting values in terms of what they're saying on their show. But this is the first time that I've heard anybody call them out over how they were paid by being a part of TYT and not being happy about that. So that's really interesting on Ben Dixon's part.
To get that kind of exposure. But, I've, asked anyone that I've ever worked with, like, if we're going to do things right, we're going to do things right. I'm not, I don't sell out for money. And I certainly won't sell out for less money. Like, you're not going to be making money off of me on YouTube and not paying me for what I do on YouTube. That's just my little personal issue with them. But I never said anything about that for the last 2 years. This is literally the first time I've ever even said this publicly. And that's just kind of my first salvo, because they need to be going after. I consider TYT to be the biggest traitors to progressivism, period. Right? For years, people donated money to TYT in order to have a voice, in order to have an operation that can stand up in exactly this moment. Right. So I didn't care about my little personal beef. That's a contract thing. You could have that with anybody. Right. So I'm not even knocking them for that. I'm just bringing that up because I want you to know that that there's been some seeds there for a long time that's reflective in who they are right now. They are money hungry. And I could say that because of how they're willing to sell their values at a time when we need leftist media. Like we're not, this is not 2016, right? This is not even 2020. This is the onset of true fascism. And here they are cuddling up with it, right? Here they are like laying prostrate before Trump's prostate for money. No, every person who's whoever paid money to TYT, if there was a possibility for a class action lawsuit for bait and switch, you should do it, because we invested in them for a decade or more, 2 decades, 20 years. And here they are at the most critical time in history saying, oh, no, we want to play nice with the fascists. Okay. So then, yeah, I think it's time for every one of us who knows better. I think we need to speak up. And so this is my first time. Thanks for giving me a chance to say it. I need to get that off my chest, obviously.
Oh, yeah, dude, 100%. Thank you so much for, getting that off your chest. We really appreciate it. That was very, I really relate to everything you're saying, frankly, as someone who obviously never knew Cenk and Ana, but was a loyal viewer of TYT myself. I'm glad to say I was never duped into actually donating my hard-earned money necessarily. I guess I used to watch more back in the day when I was a little more broke, but still, I really relate to that. And it does feel like a total betrayal. What I want to ask you, Ben, as someone who's known Cenk and Ana, is there any sincerity to what they're doing? Because we just watched some Tim Pool where Cenk was talking about, breaking down the walls and Americans coming together and the left and the right healing and, all this kind of bullshit. We basically decided this is an excuse. It's a way to trick stupid people that don't realize what's going on into thinking that this transition, this pivot is somehow, good faith or somehow out of some, sense of patriotism or whatever, when it's obviously what you said, it's about the money. But I just wanted to ask you, someone, like I said, who's known Cenk, who's known Ana, do you think there's any sincerity here, or is it really just a naked capitalist maneuver?
I want to, let me tell you who I knew best over at TYT, John, from the Damage Report. Absolutely love John to this day. I haven't seen
Seems like
any
a great guy.
I haven't seen any indication that he's a part of this shift. Dr. Rashad Ritchie, who came on either right at the same time or just after I came on. Dr. Rashad Ritchie would always hold it down. I don't think he would ever sell out. He's just going to keep doing his job. JR, shout out to JR. Was always a pleasure to work with JR. Their main producer who does the show with them on a regular basis. I can't think of his name right now, but I absolutely loved working with that brother. As far as Cenk and Ana, I admired them. I'm not even going to front. Like, I was like, hey, you guys are doing a great thing. Thanks so much for bringing me in to work with you all on this. It was a great experience. Save the one little contract issue I had with them. It was a great experience. I can't really say that in the time that I had with them that I could really measure the sincerity of their hearts. I really measure that now based on the very slow pivot that I've seen over the last 2 years, where they've floated their trial balloons. And now that they've gotten, MAGA, who's regularly replying and supporting them, they've gone full-throated transition. And so I can't really judge that. I didn't have any signals at the time, except the contract issue, that they were about the money. I thought that they were sincerely progressive. And I guess that's how all of us got duped. They really put on a really good show for us. This
is really pretty stunning, I think, that we now have Benjamin Dixon, we have Modale Robinson, who worked for TYT and said that he can't work for them anymore. We have Emma Vigeland, who worked for TYT and now works for and with Sam Seder at the Majority Report, saying that she loved Ana as a friend and now, is upset as to what she's seen from her. So we have all of these various progressives who are calling out Cenk and Ana for this turn that we've made. Now, critics of this could say, well, none of these channels are as big as the Young Turks, and they're just going after them to get more viewers for their own shows. But Benjamin Dixon here says, he lists people within TYT that he had no problem with, and I'm happy to see that he thinks that John Iadarola is a stand-up guy. When he says John there, he's talking about John Iadarola. I did a video just the other day that you can watch on my channel where John Iadarola and Francesca Fiorentini are talking about their feelings about this. They have to be guarded with what they say because they still work with and for TYT. But I don't know that Benjamin Dixon would, if he was not sincere about this, why he wouldn't just throw the entire enterprise under the bus rather than just singling out Ana and Cenk. But when he says they are the biggest traitors to progressivism, that's pretty incredible.
To say, hey, we really mean what we say. But then when the opportunity presented itself, they didn't.
Yeah. I kind of arrived last to the party, right? Gavin was a diehard listener. I became kind of aware of the Young Turks in 2020 when Bernie was running again. The first Bernie time around, I wasn't really on progressive YouTube that much. Didn't consume a lot of media like that. I was pretty young. But when I came to the party, it seemed like a mixed bag already at the Young Turks. And learning what I've been able to learn and gathering what I've been able to gather, we've had a lot of good conversations with our homie Hank Thompson, who worked there, had a lot of negative experiences, put together a great documentary we mentioned earlier about how Cenk, effectively underpaid people across the board, undermined their efforts to unionize, blamed it on outside efforts from external people, basically undermining the sovereignty of collective bargaining amongst his own employees at a progressive news network. Big red flags there.
Yes.
I think your supplemental experience of like, hey, this is a guy that will try and con you out of your own money. Obviously, you had the business acumen to be able to be like, I know how contracts work. I'm not going to allow myself to be exploited.
Yeah, exactly. But by the time I got to TYT, it was like, I had an attorney. I had done it enough. I had already been burned enough. And honestly, I think I worked with them. I think they really tried to get me on there for at least a year before I actually finally went on. And even when I went on, I didn't even sign the contract yet, but I wanted to feel them out. And then this contract that I ended up signing wasn't even, it wasn't for a set amount of time. And so I just opted out of it after I saw, what was going on financially. It was actually better working for them contract free and just getting paid for like here, this appearance versus then like the contract they wanted to put you in, which was, I think anyone who worked with TYT at the time would honestly say like the kind of ownership that they wanted in your channels. Like they really dug in and got a control of your channel, and you would have a hard time separating from them in the long run. I'm good.
I do want to get your opinion, though, Benjamin. We talk about the way Cenk and Ana are responding to fascism, essentially. And basically, they're responding by capitulating, by trying to make friends with the fascist and hope that, maybe if we become friends with these guys, we can influence them in the right direction. And then the positive results will trickle down for all you idiots down here in our audience, all you normal people that aren't rich, that aren't going to get invited to Mar-a-Lago and that aren't going to get, paid $100,000 to do an ad read or whatever Tim Pool was talking.
Wow, that's something that I hadn't even thought of. Imagine if Cenk and Ana would get invited to Mar-a-Lago and do an interview with Trump. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if that happened, wow. I mean, then all bets are off. All credibility of Cenk, Uygur, and Ana Kasparian are completely out the window.
Talking about, right? So it's a total ruse. But let's hear it from you, Pastor Ben. What is the correct way to respond? What is the correct way to resist, at least as a political commentator or a truth teller, whatever you want to call people that are in this genre of YouTube or media? Yeah. What should we be doing? What's the correct tack to take?
To the correct response to fascism, you're saying?
Yep.
Come get me first. That's the response. Come get me first. Donald Trump, MAGA, Jack Posobiec, who thinks people are unhuman, InfoWars, War Room, all of them. I think the correct response is to be the verse volunteer. I volunteer as tribute. If you're going to come after somebody, come after me. If you're going to arrest somebody, arrest me. We have to put ourselves on the line. And this is not hubris. This is because I have children. I have two sons and a daughter. I'm most fearful for my daughter because she would be growing up in a generation where they think women are property. No, if this thing falls, and if my children have to grow up in a post-apocalyptic fascist society, I want them to know that their dad died or is imprisoned to try to stop it from happening, not to fondle their. See, I've been a pastor for a while. I took some time off when I did politics for 10 years. And so I became really accustomed to doing a lot of cussing. I'm trying my best not to cuss.
You're at home here on the Vanguard. I'll tell you that much. And I really appreciate that response from you, because it's sort of a feeling that I've had myself. A lot of people in our audience, they were very afraid after Donald Trump won re-election. Rightfully so. It's a very scary thing. And a lot of people were like, oh, do you guys think you'll leave the country? Do you guys think that you'll record from Canada? Are you going to go to England? And I was like, my response was, no, dude, this is my country.
That's
all right. Andrew Polston came from England to America in 1749. My family has been here since before the revolution, and we'll be here after the next revolution.
Come on.
Finally get our way as poor people. They were peasants. They came over here to escape. You know what I'm saying? So I've bought into the American iconography in the sense that, like, the Thomas Paines of the world, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that the idea that we would just abandon that that initial project, all of the progress that has been made, across our, sordid history, but a beautiful one if you really get down to the people that were leading the movements. You know what I'm saying?
Very well said here. I've, in my opinion. So we got Ben Dixon. I mean, he is not mincing words, as well as the guys here on the Vanguard, that they are going to fight. They're not going to go the route of Cenk, Uygur, and Ana Kasparian and capitulate to fascists. But here we have another voice in Ben Dixon calling out the Young Turks, calling out Cenk, Uygur, and Ana Kasparian, basically saying that they're frauds. And I have to admit, I mean, I have watched the Young Turks for at least 15 years, if not pushing 20 years. And I've been a fan for a long time. So this is sad to see, this turn. Let me know in the comments what you think about all of this. These are strange times, and it seems like it's just going to get stranger. I'm Chris on Culture. I'll see you in the next video.